In November 2024, one of the most beloved automotive shows on television quietly came to an end. Not with a scandal, not with a network war, not with a public meltdown, just a Facebook post. A few hundred words and a decade of TV gone. Dave Kindig didn't beg for a new platform. He didn't give a tearful interview. He made a decision that most people in Hollywood would never have the spine to make, and he moved on before the ink was even dry. What led a self-taught kid from Salt Lake City to build one of the most watched car shows in cable history and then walk away from it? That's the story nobody is telling properly, and it starts long before there was ever a camera in the shop. Dave Rick Kindig was born on February 6, 1971 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He didn't grow up rich, and he didn't grow up with any kind of blueprint for where he'd end up. What he did have, from almost the moment he could hold a pencil, was an obsession with cars, not just driving them, redesigning them. His earliest toys weren't action figures, they were Hot Wheels. His favorite hobby wasn't sports, it was pulling apart Lego sets and rebuilding them into custom car models. By the time most kids were figuring out what they wanted to be, Dave was already filling sketchbooks with vehicle drawings that nobody had taught him how to make. At 17, he got his hands on a Volkswagen Beetle and started chopping it up. Not because he had the resources or training, purely because he couldn't help himself. Friends started asking him to customize their cars. Word spread, a line formed outside his door before he even had a proper door to speak of. He never went to art school. He never completed a formal design program. His engineering education, as he's joked many times, was Hot Wheels and Legos. And somehow that was enough, because what he had that no classroom could give him was an eye for design that simply couldn't be taught. Before Kindig-It design, before the TV show, before any of it, there were 8 years of grinding that most people skip right past when they tell Dave's story. After school, Dave went to work at High Performance Coatings, a company doing specialized coatings on exhaust systems and show cars in Salt Lake City. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't his name on anything, but those 8 years sent him all over the United States, putting him in the same rooms as some of the best car designers and fabricators in the country. He was watching, learning, storing everything, building the kind of taste that only comes from being exposed to the real thing over and over, until your standards become permanently elevated. By the time he was ready to leave, he wasn't just a guy who liked cars. He was a designer who understood fabrication, coatings, and custom builds better than most people twice his age. He just didn't have his own shop yet. That was about to change. The year was 1999. Dave had 2 kids, a modest savings account, and a wife who believed in him more than he believed in himself. Charity Kindig, who he'd met at a dance club while she was still in high school, had been watching Dave wrestle with this decision for years. He wanted out of the coatings job, he wanted his own shop, but quitting a steady income with a young family felt like madness. According to Dave, he pestered her about it for so long that she eventually just said, "Go do it," so he did. They founded Kindig-It Design together in Salt Lake City. Charity as co-founder and eventually vice president, Dave as the creative engine. They had almost no money, they had enormous passion, and they had something nobody else in the market was offering. Truly bespoke, high-end custom builds designed by someone who could sketch the entire vision in 2 minutes on a napkin and then execute it flawlessly in metal and paint. It didn't take long for the automotive world to notice. A GM Design Award in 2007, a Master Builder Award in 2012, a Ford Design Award in 2013. The shop became one of the most respected custom houses in the country while it was still barely a decade old. Then a TV producer walked through the door. In 2014, Bitchin rides premiered on the Velocity Network, a channel built specifically for automotive enthusiasts. The format looked simple on paper. Follow Dave, Charity, shop foreman Kevin Sheely, better known to fans as Kev Dog, and the rest of the Kindig-It crew as they took client cars from initial pencil sketch to jaw-dropping reveal. What separated it from every other build show on cable was the quality of the work being done. These weren't just modified cars, they were fully reimagined machines, and the cast chemistry was completely real. Kev Dog became a fan favorite almost immediately. The family dynamic gave the show warmth that most automotive programming didn't have. And Dave's habit of talking clients out of their own bad ideas, on camera without apology, turned into appointment television. The show became Velocity's most popular series. When Velocity rebranded as Motor Trend, Bitchin rides came along and kept growing. Season after season, new builds, global audiences. In Italy, the show aired as Salt Lake Garage. Everywhere else, Kindig Customs. Over 170 episodes across 10 seasons, and a fan base that stretched far beyond the typical cable car show demographic. But behind the scenes, the platform that housed all of it was starting to crack. In early 2024, something significant happened that most casual fans never fully registered. Motor Trend Plus, the streaming platform that had become the primary home for the show, was shut down entirely. Warner Bros. Discovery absorbed its content library into Discovery Plus and Max as part of a sweeping business restructure. That's a corporate way of saying the platform that had built its entire identity around automotive content decided automotive content was no longer the priority. Shows like Bitchin Rides were caught in the crossfire. The production company that filmed multiple Motor Trend shows was reportedly shutting down. Budgets tightened, and while the exact terms of what happened between Dave and the network have never been made fully public, it became clear that Season 11 would not be operating under the same conditions as everything that came before it. For a show that had spent a decade delivering meticulously crafted, premium content, the writing was becoming visible on the wall. On November 1, 2024, Dave Kindig posted a message to his Facebook page that stopped the automotive community cold. Bitchin Rides would end with its 11th season. After an incredible run, the show was finished. He thanked the fans, he expressed gratitude, he kept it dignified. What he didn't do was rant about the network. He didn't fish for sympathy. He didn't announce he was shopping the format to a new platform or plead for a streaming rescue. He just told the truth. The run had been extraordinary, and it was time to close the chapter. Fans were blindsided, not because the show had been struggling, but because from the outside it looked like it had never been healthier. Season 10 had aired just months earlier. The audience was still enormous. There was no obvious creative collapse, no scandal, no public fallout. What most people watching from home didn't know was how much the ground beneath the whole operation had already shifted. Here's what separates Dave Kindig's story from most TV personalities who watch their platform disappear. He didn't fall apart. While fans were processing the announcement online, Dave was already deep into a project that had been 4.5 years in the making. A build so significant and so secretive that the team had constructed a hidden room inside the shop and kept the entire project away from the Bitchin Rides filming crew. Letting it appear on camera would have made it ineligible for competition. That car was 12 Air, a one-of-a-kind, all-aluminum-bodied creation inspired by the Corvair concept GM unveiled at its 1953 Motorama, the forgotten show car that quietly influenced every Corvette that came after it. Built for clients Dave and Tracy Maxwell of Pennsylvania, 12 Air featured a custom 9.2-liter V12 engine built from GM's LS architecture, a fully hand-formed aluminum unibody, and design details so extreme they included a creased glass windshield, a detail that had almost never been attempted before on a custom build. In March 2024, 12 Air debuted at the Detroit Autorama. It won the Don Riddler Memorial Award, widely considered the Nobel Prize of the hot rod world. And here's the part that makes it even more remarkable. Despite designing Grade 8 finalists for other clients over many years of his career, this was the first time Kindig-It design had ever won the Riddler outright, the highest honor in the sport, claimed in the same year the show was coming to an end. Dave Kindig wasn't walking away from television into an empty room. He was walking away from a network that couldn't afford him into the most decorated moment of his professional life. Season 11 of Bitchin Rides began airing on March 12, 2025, and ran as the final chapter of a show that had built a decade of genuine loyalty. The builds were, by every account, exactly what fans had come to expect: extraordinary craft, real client stories, and reveals that reminded everyone why the show mattered in the first place. And when the last episode aired, Kindig-It design was still standing. The shop didn't close. The waitlist didn't dry up. The reputation that Dave spent 25 years building didn't need a cable network to survive. He remains active at major events, SEMA, MasterTech Expo, car shows across the country, still sketching full designs in minutes by hand in front of live crowds. Charity remains VP of the operation. Their kids, Bailey and Drew, both work in the business. The family enterprise that started with almost no money in 1999 is still very much intact. The show is gone. Everything it was built on is not. There's a version of this story where Dave Kindig is a cautionary tale, a television personality who lost his platform and had to figure out what came next. But that version doesn't hold up when you actually look at what happened. What really happened is that a self-taught kid from Salt Lake City, who built an empire out of a sketchbook and a room full of Lego cars, reached the very top of his sport. First in television, then in the highest competitive arena that custom car building has to offer, and chose to exit from a position of strength. He didn't beg for a lifeline. He didn't compromise the shop's standards to stay on a platform that had already decided to move on. The show ended, the legacy didn't. And the fact that nobody saw it coming, that might be the most Dave Kindig thing about the whole story.